Jake Paul walked into this camp knowing that everything about this moment would define him. All the bravado, all the noise, all the headlining exhibitions, all the victories over faded legends and crossover fighters had led him here. But now, facing the first legitimate heavyweight test of his career, he understood something he had never admitted before. For once, the stakes were real. For once, the risk outweighed the reward. For once, his opponent wasn't a retired champion in his late 50s or an MMA fighter learning boxing on the fly. This time, he stood opposite a man carved from the heavyweight division itself. A man who once sat atop the sport as a unified world champion. A man whose punches had ended careers. A man whose power had been described as a force that touches bone, not just skin. And Jake Paul knew, deep down, that nothing he had ever faced could prepare him more than the presence of the one man he brought into camp. Mike Tyson. He didn't bring Tyson for show. He didn't do it for headlines. He did it because fear demanded it. The kind of fear he never confessed but revealed through the sheer intensity of his training. Tyson watched him closely, evaluating him with the eyes of a man who had lived through the darkest corners of heavyweight combat. Tyson's presence alone transformed Paul's camp into something far more serious than anything he had done before. There was no joking, no bravado, no ego. Only drills, sweat, discipline, and the unforgiving reality that he would soon share a ring with a man standing half a foot taller, carrying 50 more pounds of muscle, and possessing knockout power that destroyed elite competition. The face-off in Miami made everything even clearer. Jake stood across from Joshua, small, compact, a cruiserweight forcing himself into the world of giants. While Joshua looked down from the heavens, Jake's eyes sat at chest level, almost comically undersized. Yet instead of shrinking, he leaned forward. His belief hardened. His bravado flared. He convinced himself that all he needed was 8 disciplined rounds. 8 rounds to avoid one devastating punch, 8 rounds of speed and angles to rewrite the entire history of the sport. In his mind, he wasn't outmatched. He wasn't the underdog. He wasn't the inexperienced fighter. He believed he was simply the man willing to go further than Joshua was prepared to go. Yet behind that confidence lived something darker and more desperate. He admitted it himself. This fight kept him up at night. This fight scared him more than anything he had ever done. For the first time, he said he was ready to die in the ring. For the first time, he embraced a level of danger that separated boxers pretending from boxers truly living the reality of the sport. That confession revealed everything. Jake Paul wasn't just stepping into a fight. He was stepping into a world that could break him. Joshua, meanwhile, carried himself like a man who had felt the cold of defeat, the humiliation of being knocked out on the biggest stages, and the burden of expectation. But that vulnerability didn't soften him. It sharpened him. After a year away, he returned refreshed, slimmer, faster, more focused. The weight limit didn't bother him. He said losing bulk only made him more dangerous, more fluid, more explosive. He wasn't taking Jake lightly. He wasn't approaching this like a sideshow. He was approaching it like a man whose pride had been wounded and whose future demanded redemption. He acknowledged Jake's business brilliance. He respected Jake's reach, his marketing genius, his influence. But respect has limits. And Joshua made his limits clear when he vowed to break Jake's body piece by piece. In Joshua's mind, this was less about beating Jake Paul and more about restoring order. Boxing, for him, was a craft, a legacy, a proving ground built on discipline. Jake was a disruptor stepping into territory he hadn't earned with sweat, but with celebrity. And while Joshua understood the entertainment value, he also understood the responsibility. He needed to remind the world why heavyweights rule boxing, not influencers. Jake Paul attempted to match that seriousness. He hired world champions as sparring partners. He brought in Shakur Stevenson, Raymond Ford, and Montana Love. He attempted to surround himself with the highest level of skill possible, hoping that some of it would rub off. He understood that fighting Joshua wasn't about throwing wild punches or chasing viral knockouts. It was about elevating his boxing IQ beyond anything he had ever done. He surrounded himself with pressure, adversity, and fear because deep down he understood that preparation wouldn't just help him survive Joshua. It might be the only thing that could save him. Yet even that wasn't enough to silence critics. Many insisted Jake had no business sharing a ring with Joshua. They said it turned boxing into a spectacle, a carnival act, a dangerous experiment. They warned that Joshua's recent knockout loss meant nothing. Heavyweights declined slowly, and even in his decline, Joshua remained a monster. They pointed out Jake's entire career had been built on fighting men either much smaller or far past their prime. They highlighted his refusal to fight ranked cruiserweights or light heavyweights. They reminded the world that Jake Paul had never fought someone his own size, age, and discipline level in the sport. Meanwhile, Joshua's own promoters saw the fight as a blessing, not a risk. They viewed it as easy work for massive money, a chance to rebuild momentum before aiming for bigger fights in 2026. They didn't see Jake as a threat. They saw him as a gift, a payday disguised as competition. And while Joshua acknowledged the spectacle, he also reinforced the brutality behind it. He insisted he would hurt Jake, that he would punish him, that he would walk through him without hesitation. As the world argued, Jake insisted he would win. He insisted that Joshua was declining, that Joshua didn't have a chin, that time had caught up with him. He believed that a man who had just been knocked out could be knocked out again. He believed this was his moment to silence everyone who doubted him. But belief alone doesn't survive at heavyweight. And belief alone doesn't stop a right hand from a man who once crushed champions. In the end, this fight represents two different journeys colliding. One man fighting to restore his legacy. Another fighting to prove he belongs among giants. One man seeking redemption. The other chasing validation. And in the middle stands one truth. When the bell rings, belief means nothing. Only power, discipline, and survival remain. And now let me ask you, is Jake Paul stepping into destiny, or is he walking into destruction? Is this bravery, or is it delusion? And can he truly survive 8 rounds with a world-class heavyweight? Share your thoughts below, subscribe for more cinematic boxing breakdowns, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive like this.